So let's learn how to do soldering. It's a process used to join two or more metal parts together using a filler material known as solder. Let's begin by soldering two wires together. All you need is a solder wire. A solder is usually an alloy of 60% tin and 40% lead or lead-free versions wherein lead is replaced either by silver, nickel or antimony. Most common solders usually melt around 180 to 190 degrees Celsius. Now the solder has a lower melting point than the metals being joined. A soldering iron. We need to provide a voltage supply to the soldering iron so that it heats up. It reaches proper temperature in about 3 to 5 minutes. The ideal temperature is around 300 to 350 degrees Celsius for lead containing solder, while lead-free solder requires 350 to 400 degrees Celsius. This high temperature ensures that the solder melts efficiently and creates a strong joint. So once it is hot, you can clean the tip of the soldering iron using brass wool or damp sponge to remove impurities and the old solder. Soldering flux. It is used to prepare the metal surfaces before soldering by cleaning and removing any oxides and impurities. Oxides are chemical compounds that are formed when metals are exposed to air. Soldering flux removes these impurities and ensures that the solder flows smoothly and creates a solid electrical connection. We have two wires. Apply a small amount of flux to the parts of the wires that need to be joined. Place the tip of the soldering iron on the joint and hold it there for a few seconds. After heating, you simply need to feed the solder onto the joint and not directly onto the soldering iron tip. The solder should flow and surround the joint. Now, let this cool naturally and the solder should form a shiny, smooth and solid connection. Now let us check how a good solder joint looks like. Here we are taking a perf board or a perforated circuit board, also known as prototyping board or dot printed circuit board. As you can see, a layer of copper is present only on one side of the board. The matte side, which is the base material of the PCB, is a laminate, which is a substrate like FR4, bonded with a shiny layer of copper foil on the other side. These boards are used for building and testing electronic circuits before finalizing the design for a production PCB. So you can insert your components into the matte side of the board and connect them through soldering onto the other side containing copper layer. So following the same steps as earlier, we have inserted the wire into the dot PCB or prototyping board, and as you can see, a good solder joint should look like a small, smooth, shiny cone with no gaps or cracks. We can also remove excess solder using a desoldering pump. A desoldering pump is a tube that has a small hole on one side and a plunger on the other side that can be pushed down. When the plunger is down, the small hole is placed over the solder and then the solder is heated with the soldering iron. A button on the side of the desoldering pump can be used to make the plunger come back up fast enough so that it creates a suction that sucks the heated solder off the items and into the pump. So always remember that when the soldering iron is not in use, always place it in a stand and please do not touch its tip with your hands because you know the temperatures are really high. With practice, you will be able to make clean and effective solder joints. So happy soldering.